Whether you rushed from work or ditched your latest Zoom call to be here, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. Welcome to AI-powered product intelligence, our ninth GenAI Lab event. I would like to first do a quick acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet, the Gadigal people, and we pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Now, my name is Alex Zinoviev, and tonight we were really hoping to bring a very charismatic, polished MC to host this event. Unfortunately, that person wasn't available, so you're stuck with me. Look, I founded GenAI Lab 18 months ago. This is our ninth event, and I almost had to cancel this event. A few weeks ago, I was on holidays when things started falling apart. The venue sponsor ended up, relocating the venue to something else. The food sponsor relocated the budget to another event. But the idea of canceling was just chewing me from the inside, because we've got Nicole, who flew from US to be with us tonight. You've got all of you who were expecting something to happen in August. So what I did is I asked for help, and people did show up. You showed up. So thank you for being here. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you also for sponsoring the pizza and the drinks tonight. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate the support that Torrens University gave us on such short notice. I'd love to invite Rob, who is the VP of Student Growth, just to officially welcome us to this wonderful venue.
Thanks, Alex. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Torrens University, Australia. As Alex says, I'm Rob, and I'm the VP for Growth here. That would have been an absolute travesty if it was cancelled, because Alex didn't mention that to me. So I'd have still been here anyway. But sorry you had all those troubles, but we were here. We're rock solid, and we really are when it comes to supporting GenAI Lab. Alex and I had a opportunistic meeting, and we got talking about what we did in our day jobs. And then Alex also told me about what he does after his day job, which is GenAI Lab. And I was just totally inspired by the work that he was doing. And I thought, he's a real entrepreneur, which is absolutely in the spirit of Torrens University. So we're thrilled to have this collaboration with GenAI Lab. This is our second large event, and we're also playing host to the hands-on workshops that Alex is running with the team. And we have some of our students attending that, and the feedback is really exceptional. So I'm not his sales guy, but if you are looking for something to do on a Saturday, it's pretty reasonable, and the feedback is exceptional. In universities, we're all pretty scared about AI, and a lot of the talk is about how to protect ourselves from it. So I'm really thrilled tonight that we're talking positively about the potential of the tools that are emerging in AI in various different avenues. And I'm really excited that I have a sector colleague from Charles Sturt University on the lineup, and it's a fantastic lineup. So look, I'll let you get straight to it. Welcome again to Torrens University, and I'm sure you'll be back at the next event. Thanks. Cheers, Alex.
Thank you, Rob. I wanted to give you a quick update on GenAI Lab and how we've been doing since the last time we had an event. Last time I asked for people's help to bring GenAI Lab into other cities, Brisbane and Melbourne. Happy to announce that these plans are progressing really well. We have a city lead in Melbourne organizing the next GenAI Lab event. His name is Bharath. He is a product manager at Telstra. He does need help. So if you know anyone in Melbourne in product design or other areas just passionate about GenAI, please let me know. I'd love to be put in touch. And we're always looking for speakers and sponsors and venues in Melbourne. In Brisbane, things are progressing. We don't have a city lead in Brisbane. I would love to have one. So whatever energy I can scrape up from my brain after putting kids to bed, I'm using to, progress things in Brisbane as well. And we do have a venue lined up and a date sometime in September. So hopefully this event will happen in September as well. Again, please let me know if anyone in Brisbane is interested in driving this initiative. I'd love to bring this experience to more people across Australia. Now, we're going to keep this very interactive. There's going to be speakers and demos. I'd love you to participate. Throw in your burning questions into Slido. If you pull up your phone and just scan the QR code, or you can go to slido.com and just enter that hashtag number. So yeah, we're not gonna take breaks. We're just gonna go straight through into presentations and demos throughout, and we're gonna answer all the most upvoted questions. So please, just when you see a question that you really want to get answered, make sure you upvote it, and we'll get our speakers to answer the questions. And afterwards, if you want to stick around, we're gonna go across the road upstairs at Keg and Brew pub. Just join us for a few drinks. We'll be there hanging out. All right, let's get to the fun part of the evening. From the moment Nicole and I met, we really have. I felt a connection. Maybe it's because she's also organizing communities around the world, and she understood instantly what I was trying to achieve. Her foundation called Love Out Loud is amazing, and it's trying to redefine how we solve issues with mental health. She's been a founder, entrepreneur, philosopher. She's got many titles, and most recently, her passion is driving inTruth, which I'm sure she'll tell you all about it. But one hint: there's a reason why I'm wearing Garmin today, and rather than me, I'd love Nicole to come up on stage and tell you all about this. Thank you for being here with us, Nicole. Really appreciate it. You guys gonna set up your presentation?
Right, yeah. Isn't it a clicker, or do I need to use the?
Yeah, use this.
Is it?
Yeah.
So who's ready to see Alex's emotions? I mean, I was only doing the data analysis just a little while ago, so I feel like I've learned a lot about you, Alex, in the last 20 minutes, as well as maths. We had 2 sacrificial volunteers from the audience where I got to, in real time, see what the last 24 hours was like for them emotionally, which is a historic technology. Technology like this has never existed before, especially in a democratized way. And that's what we're seeking to do at inTruth. And I'm excited to share all about that today. We've got a lot to get through in 30 minutes. But I want to throw a question back to you guys, maybe just with the person next to you. I want you to reflect on the last really stupid decision you made. It could be like yesterday, or it could be 10 years ago, but usually there's a decision that came to mind like immediately that you don't want to share. Make sure you shared that one. Jump into a group of 3 if you have to. I'll give you 20 more seconds to make sure you've both shared, or the 3 of you have shared. And then some of you absolutely looks like the last thing in the world that you wanted to do was share whatever that decision was. Okay, and finishing up them. So let me ask you this. Hands up if you believe that you're a rational person. Okay, 1, 2, 3, maybe 10. All right, so I just need to call it. Whoever has a hand up right now, you are absolutely deluded. Now, hands up if you know that you're irrational. That emotion is driving your decision making, that you then later desperately try to figure out a logical explanation why the fuck you did the thing that you just said. Okay, there's a few very honest people and then some very confused people that just don't want to share at all, and that's fine. We're going to get vulnerable tonight. That's a part of, what I'm here to pioneer in the world. But the reality is, no matter what the spectrum is that you sit on in answering that question, 80% of our decision making is emotional. And a lot of us, when we think about emotion, culturally, we think about emotion as this kind of really elusive thing, right? This thing that has no objective standing. This thing that, talk about feelings and this kind of pie in the sky, and it's not something that's really tangible. But emotion absolutely is tangible. Emotion's happening in your nervous system every 200 milliseconds. So by the time I've even asked you, how are you feeling? And you say, I'm feeling really grateful today, or I'm feeling sad, you've actually experienced about 50 emotions. We're going to unpack the neuroscience of that in just a little bit, but I want you to think about that as it relates to your decision making. Specifically, when you make these decisions that you really can't understand why you just made the decision you made, why you just text the ex, why you just spent another $500 on drinks and, you're going to wake up in a shame spiral again the next day. Why you did that crazy thing to start a business, and then you're like, oh my God, I've got 150 people coming to this event and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to do it. Right? These are actually emotionally driven decisions that we will then do our best to rationalize, because that's what makes us human. But because emotion's never been standardized until now, I have a theory that this has created a culture where we constantly want to dismiss emotion because we can't quite understand it. And you think about the complexities of the things that we have standardized as a world, like things like time. It's allowed us to manage huge amounts of complexity, global trade. It allows me to have a meeting with someone in London. It allows me to catch a flight. Huge amount of complexity has been actualized because we've been able to standardize something like time. Standardizing something like language, which has allowed me to manage the complexity of thought. And yet emotion, the thing that's driving 80% of our behavior, has never been standardized. And as I went through my journey as an entrepreneur, this was something that just was something I couldn't move past. And it was because the problems I was trying to solve in my early years as an entrepreneur when I was younger could not have progressed unless I solved this problem. And so what my team and I had been building for the last 5 years is an AI-driven model that can take raw data from biosensors like the Garmin watch I'm wearing, that Alex is wearing, through a PPG sensor, which is a very readily available consumer-grade sensor, translate that raw data, which is called beat-to-beat interval data, through the model that can then decipher discrete emotion at a sample rate of 200 milliseconds. So this is data that your mind is never going to be able to aggregate on its own. There's a whole unconscious to what makes us human that's never been visible to us, that for the first time in history is actually being made visible. And think about what that means for the future of our progression of understanding our behavior, for understanding performance, and the way that this is going to be able to move industries forward. Can I get a couple of shares of what the decisions were that you made that were terrible decisions? Just to open it up to you guys so I can put this into some context. Yeah.
Yeah, going on holiday is my best mate and his girlfriend novel that they were breaking apart. It was a long holiday too. So the two people who were about to break up.
So the girlfriend obviously went on the holiday knowing that she was going to break up with your mate.
They weren't breaking up, that's the whole thing. They both wanted to go. We got to break up, then we missed the holiday.
So this doesn't need to be unpacked, with too much detail to sort of see that, okay, we get ourselves into these emotional binds as human beings, that we're trying to figure out why we would put ourselves in these situations, but here we are living out very imperfect lives. Great example. One more example from the audience. Yeah.
I quit my job.
Period.
Moved to Australia.
Amazing. Round of applause. That's super brave. Yeah.
Right.
So in the moment you made that decision, can you guys hear me? You can hear me anyway?
Just to shoot another mic up.
Okay. In the moment you made that decision, do you remember the emotion that you were experiencing?
Can say with these, I can't even miserable the emotion was that I'm very nervous.
Oh, lots of that.
But did you get to a point, that's better, did you get to a point where you just could not tolerate the feeling of being in that job any longer?
No.
What was your journey with that?
Well, I had to quit to move because my husband is Australian and he wants to come home. So actually,
Which you then later had to rationalize because here you are in Australia living a new life. Are you enjoying Australia?
I love it.
Good. That was the silver lining. If anyone needs an employee, what's your line of work? Product. Go figure. There you go. Hopefully there's a lot of leads in the audience. But another example, right? These decisions we make that, the love and resentment of my husband made me do this thing. And now here I am living my life. And why would we try to dismiss this thing that defines so much about our experience, especially in the rise of artificial intelligence, where everything has become an algorithm, an echo chamber? We're at risk of losing the very thing that makes us unique, which is our spontaneity, which is driven by our emotional layers. I believe this is incredibly important and not spoken about enough. The rise of echo chambers began through landmark data broker deals, which began in 2014. The average data broker has about 70,000 data points on you. They've profiled your subconscious fears, they've profiled how you're likely to behave, and they use that data for the most part to keep you trapped inside an echo chamber that changes your ideology, and for the most part, we believe that inTruth has driven more disconnection and more mental health issues. What if we could change the design principles behind technology to actually ask the question, what is the story that my technology is writing for the world? Imagine if some of these major platforms that have infiltrated almost all of our lives in a little way or a big way ask that question from the beginning. Now, the challenge is shareholder profits are supreme in a capitalist world. And within that, when the design principle is how do we ensure that extraction and profit are one, we end up with technologies that are driving harm and not awakening, not human connection. I believe this is something that we can challenge and change. What if the more someone came home to themselves, the more profitable the company became? And I think in your position, for a lot of you guys that work in product, by simply evaluating your design principles, this is something that all of you have the power to pioneer and spearhead, or at the very least begin that conversation with your executive teams, with your founders, and create a different ethos. For me, this journey started about 15 years ago with my first organization, which Alex was referencing, which was kind of like the antithesis of tech. It was a nonprofit. So if you had told me back then that I would end up building a Silicon Valley tech startup, I literally would have thought you were out of your mind, because that was the furthest thing away from what I was pursuing at that time. But the reason I have this slide up here, especially for anyone in the audience that is aspiring to be an entrepreneur, this is something that's so simple, so core to entrepreneurship, but again, I think is so often overlooked. I believe that the best entrepreneurs are the people that are obsessed with solving a problem. And they're thinking about how to solve that problem in a way that's the most accessible, most affordable, the most scalable, and in the least amount of time. And for me, when I go back in my history, I can see very clearly that I've been trying to solve this same problem for 15 years. My journey began after a lived experience with an eating disorder and experiencing the healthcare system firsthand and recognizing something very confronting as a young person, which was, first of all, I felt like I was more a number and a commodity than I was a human being. But second of all, the thing that struck me even more than that was how inept and unable the adults were in my life to have emotionally difficult conversations. That was the thing that actually impacted me the most, because I look back now especially and I think there was nothing really that confronting about the nature of who I was. I was a 16-year-old, girl growing up, and leaning in to have a difficult conversation at that time for most of the adults in my life was like this terrifying thing that they would resist at any cost. That made me ask a very important question that's guided my entire entrepreneurial journey, which is, what other problems are we not solving as a world because we don't have the emotional capacity to have difficult conversations, because we don't have the emotional capacity to be present with ourselves and what we feel? And that became an obsession that began in a very analog way, which was literally building communities around Australia through a nonprofit, introducing a model at the time that I called emotional infrastructure. So you can see that it was like the analog versus digital version of the solution that I'm working on today. But I went so deep doing that work. I took that work to 300 communities across Australia. I lived in my van for almost 2.5 years, just doing that exclusively, like 15 hours a day, every day. That's what I was doing, was running workshops in rural and regional communities. And you learn so much through that iterative process. I mean, you guys know in product, right? The more people you talk to, the more clients you talk to, the more input you get. In those first 2.5 years of my journey building this nonprofit, I heard about 50,000 stories. And after about 5,000, I was like, wow, there's a lot of similarities in these people's stories. It's a real coincidence. After 10,000, I was like, this is really weird how many similarities at the bottom of people's stories there really are. After 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, I was like convinced that there was more of what makes us the same than separates us, and that it was the inability to feel our emotion was at the center of all of our pain, irrespective of how different these stories were. And so I used that to advocate at the time politically, because I was looking for scale. So I collated all these stories that I had heard and that my nonprofit had been a part of shaping through this work. And I put together a report that I used as a advocacy piece by creating the Parliamentary Friendship Group of Youth Mental Health. And so I went from doing something really grassroots to trying to get scale. And that pursuit led me unexpectedly to become the youngest Federal Commissioner for Mental Health, because I was asked by the then Health Minister, who was Tony Abbott, and the Prime Minister that was Tony Abbott, and the Health Minister at the time was Peter Dutton, to serve as a commissioner, because I put a very strong case forward of how early intervention and prevention could actually be a part of saving Australian economy huge amounts of money, because everything we were doing in mental health was crisis related. And I would hear this in stories, right? I'd sit with mums who would tell me, I go to a doctor and tell the doctor that my son is suicidal, and the doctor says there's nothing we can do until they've attempted suicide. And when you see that broken system, the entrepreneur in me was like, we've got to do better. So I had this really interesting experience where I served as a commissioner for 3 terms, which ended up being about 5.5 years. And I got to see the most grassroots level, and I got to see the highest level in many ways, putting recommendations forward on how to spend a $27 billion budget as a 21-year-old, which, just looking back, I'm like, who the hell put me in charge of that? But it was this incredible viewpoint, this vantage point, where I recognized that it cannot be either or. And so I came back to first principles thinking, and I asked myself, how could I create a solution that was both extremely personal, extremely accessible, but hyper-scalable? And I wasn't a technologist, but it was asking the right questions and using first principles thinking that drove me to come up with a technological hypothesis. What if we could use technology to measure this? Now, I know I'm at a tech event and you're probably not interested in my political background, but I'm going somewhere with this. I think so many entrepreneurs are opportunistic. They're jumping on the AI bandwagon. They're trying to obsess over the technology and later find the product market fit. But what if we were to just give it a bit of space and actually ask ourselves, what problem am I truly passionate about? Because it's going to give you a grit, a why, a purpose, a way of looking at something with empathy that I believe creates extremely innovative, world-class solutions. And this is what we need right now, especially because the defensibility around startups is no longer going to be software development. We're moving into an era, I mean, this is a GenAI event, right? All of that is about to be democratized. Investors, for the most part, have no idea what's coming. So we are the resistance. We are the revolution. We get to steer the way technology is going to define the next 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 years. And that's really the precipice of what we're dealing with right now. I mean, I've been a part of conversations in Silicon Valley where a lot of the leaders in technology truly believe that becoming transhumanism is the way. That living forever is the way. And no one challenges them. I don't know, maybe some of you believe that. For me, personally, and maybe that's come through in what I've already shared this evening, I think that we need to preserve organic life. I believe that we need to design and build technologies that serve and support us as human beings. And unless we have people that truly care about the problem they're solving, we're never going to get there. I just want to be respectful of time. I will stop here, though, because if you had told me 4 or 5 years ago when I founded inTruth that RFK Jr. would be making a call to say every American in the next 4 years is going to be wearing a health tracking device, again, I absolutely wouldn't have believed you. And there's a lesson in there that I want to share with you, which is when you are committed to your path, these kind of blue sky opportunities are not things that you can always see in advance. And again, it's sort of cliche entrepreneurial perspective, but sometimes you have to walk the path in order for the opportunities to really appear. If I had waited for this security, if I had waited to understand the real opportunity that we were presented with today, there's so much I would have missed out on. The wearables market has grown and compounded about 30% a year since I started inTruth. I could not have predicted that. I could not have predicted the way biotechnology and emotion AI are some of the most trending conversations now in artificial intelligence 5 years ago. There's no way. But it's through the audacity to follow your passion and listen to your intuition and your gut feelings that these opportunities arise. And I can't stress that enough, because I believe we need warriors on the front line that, irrespective of how delusional it seems, are doing all they can, to drive that passion forward. I said I'd give a little insight into the neuroscience of inTruth and what we're building. And so this is the model that we use that is probably the simplest way of explaining that. A lot of people sort of societally, again, believe that raw emotion and feeling are one and the same. And this is a really important distinction, that when a stimulus happens, the raw emotion is being triggered before the brain can process it. By the time the brain processes it, it becomes a feeling. If that feeling isn't addressed, it becomes a mood. And so if you say to your boyfriend or your girlfriend you're in a mood, it's because they haven't processed their feelings for hours or days. And then it becomes a state if it's not addressed. Now, you guys work in product for the most part, so I just want to highlight the word state, because a lot of people who believe that they're doing something world-changing are often trying to change the state of an industry, the state of the way solutions are being brought to market. And when you really think about the neuroscience of what causes a state, or even the state of the world, it starts with that autonomic emotion. And so by simply stopping and asking yourself, how do I feel about what I'm doing every day? That actually is the magic that will lead to proper state change culturally in your teams, state change within the industries that you're working in, state change eventually in the world. Because you guys are a product, I wanted to sort of boast one of the new features that we're about to release. It's called an emotion score. So you access inTruth, obviously by having the wearable. You download an app on your phone. The raw data is processed through a machine learning model, and then the insights are presented on the app, and for teams, a dashboard where you can see group level analysis and trends. One of the features that we've been working very hard on is an emotion score. So you guys might be familiar with like a sleep score out of 100 that your Oura Ring or your Apple Watch might give you. Imagine actually being able to see out of 100 how well you emotionally regulated over the last 24 hours. And to really be able to quantify this, for me, my hope is that we can drive emotion to actually be clinically recognized as a biomarker. That's my dream for this, that mental health can become true hard data. Because, I think we can do better than a Lacart scale of, have you been stressed in the last 7 days, sad face to happy face. We have to progress beyond that, but I could talk about that all day, so I want to be respectful of time and unpack, Alex. And so this is our UX UI, and I want to sort of just help you understand what you're actually looking at, because it'll help you look at maths and Alex's data with more context. So this is called a circumplex model of emotion. Basically, it's compartmentalized into an X and a Y axis. The Y axis is arousal, so low stress to high stress. And the X axis is called valence, which is a scale of pleasantness, negative to positive. A lot of wearables on their own are very, very good at tracking arousal. So that's why your Garmin or your Oura can tell you if you're stressed, but it cannot delineate whether or not that stress is positive or negative stress. So that's the specific value point that our machine learning model has been able to delineate that actually starts to give us high definition data, which is discrete emotion. So if you're really positive valence and high arousal at the extreme, you might maybe excited or euphoric. If you're low arousal and negative valence, you could be depressed or bored or tired. So I want you to memorize this because it's going to help us do the analysis. If you cross-reference that to our user interface, you can see here that that's exactly what inTruth is mapping on the now screen. What's incredible about our journey is the more data we feed our machine learning model, the more intelligent the model becomes. And I actually have a prediction, a hypothesis that we're yet to validate because we don't yet have, say, 100 million users. But by the time we do, I actually believe we'll start to have points in the data that we no longer have words for, that we actually can visualize emotions that language just cannot touch in the thousands or potentially tens of thousands, because no one's attempted to do this at scale like this. Okay, so I want to invite Alex and Maths off to the stage. And then if there's anyone in the audience that knows these two quite well, I also would love like a representative of Alex.
Get in there.
Okay, so all right. I'm a pretty good judge of character. I'll do my best. Okay, so on the left we have Alex's, on the right we have Maths. And I want you to sort of, take this in. One of the things we haven't done yet is actually standardize the color of each cluster. So don't get caught up in the color. The significant part of what you're looking at is that each cluster actually signals a discrete emotional group. So what really struck me actually about both Alex and Maths charts, even though they have slightly different biases emotionally and dispositions, was that overall, you're both actually very emotionally well-rounded. I will say this is only 24 hours. This is only 24 hours of data. So, a lot can happen in like a week or 2 weeks or even a year. But we're going to try to unpack, to the best of our ability, the insights that we've had over the last 24 hours. So this was yesterday's data. The temperament summary, Alex, over the last 24 hours shows that you have dense clustering at the center. So this means that you're, have actually quite a strong emotional neutrality. So you're able to come back to a centered state, even if you experience outlier emotions, which if you're an entrepreneur, that's a really important thing to have. Otherwise, you'll probably become psychotic at some point on the founder's journey. But you also experience a wide range of emotions. But yeah, you stay relatively regulated, which was cool to see. You have a moderate lean towards positive valence. So even though there's sort of quite a strong baseline and a level of neutrality, the model has shown that the bias is there, it's subtle, and it's towards high positive emotions. How are we doing about Alex's temperament?
I completely agree. Yeah. I didn't plan to stuff. But so probably just to explain, when I first met Alex, when I first met Alex, it was in the workplace, and how I know him now is very different from my first impression. When I first met him, it was entirely neutral, right? Entirely stable. And then over time, I've seen his other side and his positive side. I'd say being Russian influences it a little bit, the neutrality, but yeah.
Okay, we're so far so good. You do have, even though there's that neutrality, you do have a significant presence compared to, say, the other people that the model has analyzed in the high arousal zones, which is good. Alex is a backable entrepreneur. If there's any investors in the room, this is like a good sign. Although yesterday you did have some low points, they definitely weren't the sort of dominant experience you had yesterday, but they could sort of signal that there was some level of fatigue or low mood at some part of the day. If we went back and saw the hour view in your inTruth, I'd be able to tell you when. Overall, it suggests that your temperament is emotionally dynamic. So you move between emotional states quite easily. You'd likely be high functioning under stress because you have this ability to come back to a centered state. You're most likely empathetic and emotionally self-aware. And the reason is there's not a strong refractory period or like gaps in your data. So I've learned through analyzing lots of these models that if someone has quite a coherent graph, and I'm going to show you other examples for comparison later, you're likely empathetic because you're not resistant to your own emotional experiences, which is an interesting kind of insight to empathy, right? Because I don't think that anyone, with the exception of maybe some outliers, are truly not empathetic. I've actually learned through analyzing data like this that my theory is it's when people are not able to physiologically feel emotion, that they're then not actually able to extend that empathy to another person. So it really is like this amazing insight into the importance of doing this work on ourselves, right? Because of how much that impacts those around us. And you're likely a reflective person. But that's an assumption. It's sort of an educated assumption based on this data. How's that landing for you, Alex?
What is a reflected person?
So someone that is able to self-reflect. You're able to ask yourself questions. You're able to really think about, okay, how am I feeling about this? Like less reactive.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
I've actually been thinking a lot about it recently, is that with all these changes in AI happening so rapidly, there's actually not enough time to reflect on what's happening, why it's happening. And I find myself reflecting in a very kind of analog kind of way, just writing stuff down. And I've been lately feeling like it's just not enough time to write everything down. So that's something to solve for, I think.
Well, only a reflective person would have this reflection.
That's right.
Okay, so Maths, you're going to have to represent yourself here. So let's test your self-awareness. So your temperament summary, your dominant zone was right of center below the midline. So this is actually like positive, but actually more chill than Alex. Kind of like the emotions are like cool, calm, collected. Like I'm feeling good. I'm feeling relaxed. Like it's all good. And
This was only like 24 hours.
yes, this is a chill. I had a mental breakdown 3 days ago that the data didn't pick up. Okay, yeah. Well, I can only see what I can see. So you share as much as you're comfortable with. And that it suggests, just based on this 24-hour sample, that you are a quite a calm, balanced person and mildly positive, quite emotionally grounded and likely self-regulating. The range of emotional states. So you do have a range similar to Alex, and like it's interesting in both of your charts, neither of you move that much into the low negative emotions, or you didn't over that day period. So there's some presence there, but when you were in a bad mood or a negative mood, it was more like stressed bad mood. So it was like frustration, anxiety, things with more arousal, emotions with more arousal on the negative side. But your bias was mostly towards low positive, which is cool. I'm like you, Alex. My bias is high positive. And you can see my profile in just a minute. So the temperament insights for you, Matthew, were probably emotionally secure and reflective, drawn towards the present, not easily overstimulated.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that's good.
The last 24 hours. Correct.
Likely resilient because you're able to navigate high arousal states, but nothing in the data suggested that you got destabilized. So to give sort of comparison, sometimes I've seen like biases that are probably the scariest graph I ever saw, just for reference, was actually an investor that was doing due diligence on us. And I'm so happy that I got to see their data before like continuing that due diligence process, because what I saw was like really like a lot in the low positive, but then every time there was an emotional outlier, it was like extreme high negative. So this is the kind of person that if you got like on the wrong side of, or you pissed them off, they would just go from 0 to hero really fast. And you could see that in the data, which was, amazing. But for these two, you can see that there's a real continuity, actually. There's not a lot of gaps. And even the outliers aren't that far away from clusters. So you wouldn't experience either of these people as emotionally unstable in the last 24 hours. I don't know, Bruno. Yeah. It's great. And likely introspective, again, optimistic but grounded. And so what I've done next is look at the key differences between you and Alex, because there were some differences. And how would you, just before we go over this, how would you both describe your relationship?
With who?
Alex.
I don't know, like pretty chill. Like, yeah, we have a good relationship. Well, I don't know. You want to say something?
We've met through GenAI Lab community, so I think both of us are very excited to organize these kind of events. So we share that, I guess, through.
Yeah, it's a budding relationship. Yeah, exactly. But the good news is there's two emotionally stable people in the relationship. So yeah. So Alex, there's a slight lean towards positive valence overall, and maths, you were more centrally anchored than Alex. And a wider spread. So you have a wider emotional range than Alex, only slightly. But Alex is slightly more sort of geared towards positive emotion than what your data was showing. Yeah. The arousal spread was Alex, you had slightly more activity on the arousal side, high arousal and negative valence than maths. So you did experience like more, let's say frustration probably than maths did over the last 24 hours. And maths, you had slightly more balance across the upper and lower quadrants with less extreme highs and lows. But I don't have kids. You don't have kids. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so everyone take notes. All right. For emotional peaks, Alex, you had more eccentric points, and maths, you had fewer extreme outliers. Alex, your temperament type is likely to be more emotionally expressive or reactive than maths. And maths is yours is likely to be more stable, emotionally intelligent, or grounded.
Wow.
But these were subtle differences. I just have to say, like, it wasn't like I looked at both of your data and I was like, wow, these are extremely different personalities, because you both had strong cores. But yeah, these are subtle differences. Stress signals that you experience when you're in stress, Alex, you're more likely to go to negative stress, because some stress is good stress, like excitement, than maths. And your stress signals were less dominant. So you have a stronger baseline kind of state. No kids, that makes sense. And then excitability. So you tend to experience intense states, Alex, more often. And maths, you tend to experience subtler emotional states more often. Okay, so maybe let's give like a 10-second reflection based on all of that.
Then, yeah, I can say I'm a pretty stable person. Yes. But I don't have like a stressful job. And yeah, right now my life is pretty like good, like stable. Like if it was 6 months ago, probably we wouldn't have these results because I was in a higher level of stress. So yeah, for the last 24 hours, I super agree with these results. You want to say?
I managed to escape the bedtime routine last night because I was getting ready for this event. So this data is gonna look very different in the next couple of days, I think. Yeah, I'll keep wearing it. So yeah, I think definitely super insightful. Honestly, I was looking at the app like every hour just to see what's happening there. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Of course, we're gonna post CJ.
Welcome to WC. That's great. So this is 24 hours of data. So imagine what happens as the model learns you over weeks, months, years. Obviously, the discrete understanding of these emotional changes improves. This is a technology that really could be something that liberates people, or it could be a weapon. And when you're designing products, I mentioned it earlier, it is so important to think about the ethics behind that. This is a lot of fun. I love looking at people's data. I'm a total nerd like that. Obviously, it gives you so much insight And I want to show you some different models that aren't Alex and Maths, just to give you a comparative. So this is my temperament over months, the average. So you can see that I have some pretty extreme outliers in the high negative founder's journey. But for the most part, I'm pretty centered and congruent. And just to give you a completely different kind of makeup of an individual, on the right, this is our chief of sciences data. So this is someone who's very kind of level, very academic in their personality, and really not a strong valence range at all. So the way he experiences the bandwidth of his emotion is quite contained, and he has more range on the stress axis than he does the valence axis. So you can just see like a founder's profile versus who the founder needs in order to really implement, certain aspects of the business and how different that is. So one of the things that I love about what our data shows is the importance of diversity. There's also something that I love to show, which is my data versus my partner's data after months of tracking our data together. And what you can see is almost a extremely parallel pattern. So this is not what our data looked like when we first started tracking our emotional state, but it's what happened over time, the longer we were together. And what that shows to me is actually evidence that we become literally the product of the people we spend most time with. And how powerful is that? That vibe, emotion is literally contagious. Okay, there's so much more I would love to cover with you guys, but I want to leave time for at least some questions. So I'm going to pause there and I'm going to hand it over to you guys.
I was thinking just to keep us on time, maybe we'll actually jump into demos, and then we'll leave the questions towards the end. Brent, do you want to come up and set things up? I actually sent you the Wi-Fi password on WhatsApp. Yeah, you got it? Amazing. Yeah. You can just point yourself in here. We're actually going to do some demonstrations. We've got 4 coming up back to back. They'll be short and sharp. Really excited to have Brent kick us off. He's the founder of Enboarder, which is a SaaS HR tech business. When he's not working, he's hard to find. He just recently got back from Mongolia on a pro motorcycle trip, and really excited to see what you're gonna show us, Brent. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Okay. Thank you for having me. Thanks for your attention. 10 minutes. I'm going to just show you a project that I've recently done at work. Who am I? Alex introduced me. I'm a founder of Enboarder. Probably more importantly, my passion outside work is adventure motorcycle riding. So you can find me just off in the wilderness whenever possible. And because I did get back from Mongolia 3 days ago from a 2-week off-road motorcycling trips, I will be punctuating my presentation with a couple of photos from my trip. In terms of my professional background, I've been a founder, a CEO, a product manager. I've run strategy for one of the big .coms. I've been a CIO, but importantly for this, I've never been a software engineer. I don't write code. Okay, so everything that I'm going to show you, I built without engineers. And I saw one of my ex-engineers is in the audience tonight, and so he will vouch to the fact that I do not write code, but I know enough about technology that the techies can't bullshit me. And I think that's actually quite important when you're working with AI to do this sort of development. I don't believe you need to know how to write code, but I think you do need to have a pretty good sort of foundation around technology. My internal passion is AI transformation as a business. So I'm spending a lot of my time looking at how we as a company adopt AI, not just for software engineers. In terms of the company, you don't need to know too much about us. B2B SaaS HR tech company. We started with experience-driven onboarding, and we're now sort of moving into what we call an intelligent journey platform. Now, just to clarify, what I'm going to show you, we have kind of two clear environments in our company, the production environment, okay? And production environment is where our CTO and the engineers and all of our tech staff live, and where our chief product officer and our product team live. And they keep me out of their sandbox, right? They don't let me play in that sandpit. So what I'm doing, because I've got a real desire to actually get hands-on with these tools, that's the way I learn, by actually just playing and experimenting. I've looked at what can I build internally. And we don't have a lot of resources that are focused internally on building tools. So that's what I leapt into. Let me start with the business problem. What was the problem that I was trying to solve with this little project? I wanted to know how to get a good understanding of approximately 500 customers that we've got worldwide, so that we can actually help anticipate and mitigate customer churn, okay? And the problem we have is, our customers are global, the teams that service them are global, and our customer data is actually spread across multiple systems. We've got the CRM, we've got Salesforce, we've got our communications channels. And the problem that we had was that often our teams, like our account directors and our customer success reps, would only surface a customer as being a risk when it was too late, when they were being flagged as red. And by the time they were flagged as red, it's kind of like there wasn't much we could do. So I wanted to try and get a better handle on which customers were trending negatively or which customers were going at risk earlier, so that we could actually intervene and start running different plays. So that was the business problem. So I had an idea, and the first thing I did was I wanted to create a proof of concept to demonstrate the idea. So we have a customer CRM system called PlanHat. Okay, PlanHat happens to have data in there from our intercom support tickets, our email correspondence, and our Gong meeting transcripts. Okay, so there's a good chunk of data in that PlanHat system. It also has a very well documented and robust API. So what I did was I used a workflow automation tool, a no-code tool called N8M, to actually extract, transform, and load that data into a Postgres database. From that Postgres database, I then designed and built a front end using Windsurf to actually visualize and display that data. So this is the application that I built. The proof of concept was done in 5 days. And I did it with no coding, and most importantly, I didn't bother or annoy the engineers or divert the engineering resources from our core product initiatives. So this is the workflow that I built to actually extract and analyze the data using N8N. It's pretty simple, but essentially it does 3 things or 4 things. The first is it retrieves the customer record from the CRM system. And then I asked AI to I told it about the data, it analyzed the data, it scored, and it wrote a report about what it saw in that data set. The second stream pulled all of the communications. And again, I asked AI to read through all the communications, look at tone of voice, who the stakeholders were, frequency of communication, etc., and write me a report and score the communications between the customers and our staff. That then went to an editor that took both those reports, both those scores, and it wrote an executive summary, and most importantly, it created an independent health score. So now this wasn't a score based on my account director or my customer success rep. This is AI objectively scoring all of the data about the customer. We then loaded it into the database. So this is pretty powerful. One of the nice things about using a no-code tool like N8N is it's very visual. And when I started showing our customer success team what it was that I was doing, they could actually grasp very simply how it worked. And so when they saw the results of this, they said, "That's great, Brent, good attempt, but we can make it better." And so because they understood the tool, I gave them N8N and I said, "Go for it. I want you to now recreate the AI prompts. I want you to actually improve this." And so they wanted in and they built this. Okay. So this is the actual workflow that the customer success reps built. And when you look at it, what they did is they added a stream which actually did real-time market research on the customer. So it said, well, we want to understand if there's news or things that are impacting the customer that That's an important part of scoring that customer, because if there's big negative things happening to a customer economically, that will impact the score. We still had the customer record analysis. They then added product usage metrics. 21 product usage metrics were also analyzed and scored by the AI. And they took that communications analysis and they broke that down, and they created separate AI analysis for support tickets versus emails versus meeting transcripts. And again, that had a summary. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's actually 8 separate AI analysis going on now to create that summary report and the load into the database. So I had the back end working really well. I had all the data now sort of loaded and scored and analyzed in the database. So then I had to move into a front end to visualize this. I built the front end with Windsurf, and I'm sure some of you will be familiar with Ryan Carson or Ryan Carson's methodology. If not, I highly, highly recommend this. And if you want to get a link to this YouTube video, just scan that code. Ryan Carson is a 5-times founder, and he's now basically building companies by himself. Okay. And he's doing all of the development, and his 3-step structure starts with, so he's got prompts which you can download. So his prompts are in the public domain. You're welcome to download them. And basically you load up the first prompt, and the AI will chat with you and build the PRD. Okay, you don't have to watch it now, but good initiative. So the first prompt builds the PRD. Then the second prompt takes that PRD and generates a highly detailed task list. And it may be 40 steps, one by one, that is going to help you to build this application. And then the third prompt actually allows the tools like Cursor or Windsurf to execute those tasks one by one in a very controlled manner. And so I use that to actually build the application. So I'll just finish up my demo by showing you a little bit about what the app looks like. So this is the application. There's several parts to it. I'm just going to show you one part, which is kind of the heart of it. So the heart of it is what I call the big picture. So the big picture, if I just have a look at this. So this is all of our customers on one page. Across the x-axis, you're looking at the health score as scored by AI, okay? Up the y-axis, you're looking at the size of the customer in terms of the annual recurring revenue to us, okay? If the dot is pink, that means that our customer success rep has marked that as a potential risk. This is some sort of risk that they've identified. All of the rest of them are purple. So what I can do is I can now have a look at specific areas. So I can say, show me, for example, just the strategic accounts in the US, and I can click over them and actually have a look at who they are and see some information about them, okay, to identify them. Now, if I go and click in one, so BJ's Wholesale Club is a bit like a Costco in the US. This is one of the customers that I'm working with. So if I now click into that account, it's loaded up the report, and you can see I've got 5 tabs here which represent those 5 streams of analysis. So I've got an executive summary, a market analysis, which shows you what's going on. This is all of the external news around employee trends, hiring, culture, sentiment. Company record, this is the CRM record that was analyzed. Product usage, this is looking at how they are using our product. And the communications analysis is looking at things like the cadence of communication, the tone of the communication, who we're communicating with, etc. And all of that gets then summarized into an executive summary, including things like strategic opportunities. It looks at things like risks and watch points, recommended next steps, health score breakdown, and justification rationale for that. So that was a little project that I did. And I would encourage any of you, I know you've got a lot of product managers here that are playing with AI, just pick projects, even if they're not your live customer projects. make up your own projects or pick internal projects which allow you just to play in a safe environment, because you'll learn more by building this stuff yourself than you will by watching YouTube videos or that type of thing. So that's my little 10-minute demo. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was super insightful. I hope you all took something away and you're going to start building tomorrow. Next up, we've got Miri. She's no stranger to GenAI Lab. You might have been part of her focus group in one of the events in the past. She talked about ROI for GenAI. She is most recently a founder of AIPoint. She brings 20 years of experience in tech and last 10 years in AI specifically. She loves building agents, workflows. So today she's gonna showcase some things for us. And when she's not busy doing work, she's spending time with her lovely kids. Please give her a warm welcome, Miri.
Thanks, everyone. Is it working? As Alex mentioned, that I'm founder of AIPoint. I help businesses to implement AI from idea to implementation end to end. And we're not talking only about the strategy, we're actually helping them to build AI. So, does it work? It was working, but okay. Okay. How it works. So one of the things that usually go through that with businesses. Sorry, just I'll leave it like that. So we are in tech, but sometimes it's hard to work with some of the tools. So one of the things that I go through that with businesses is that how basically implement AI in their business, how to identify AI opportunities, profitable opportunities, evaluate and prioritize, then assess your AI readiness within your business, because not every business has their infrastructure ready for implementing AI, and they need to build that foundation, have their data strategy and everything in place to be able to basically implement the right AI implementation in their business. And then it comes to build or buy or a hybrid approach on AI implementation, and because there are so many off-the-shelf tools out there, so that businesses that can use that or build it within their business. And then the next step is, okay, start small, because implementing an idea is like planting. You need to be patient. Just you come with the idea, you pitch it to other people, it goes to the concept, and you build a prototype. And with the help of AI, building a prototype and getting to the pilot stage and then next to production is quite easy and available for everyone. Like Brent mentioned that he doesn't have a technical background, but he was able to go from the idea within 5 days, right? And that's also depends on how much you want to invest. For example, you want to invest, I usually say that save 10K per month with AI, because it's possible. We already saved that a lot with AI tools that we are using, that I will mention that in a minute. So it depends on, you want to invest 10K per year and have only one laptop and live in a shared studio, or you want to 10K per quarter, get your own apartment and so on, and whether 10K per month or 10K per day and live in a very fancy location in the city. So some of the AI tools that we use and actually save us a lot of money is basically per month because it saves us developer. Is Buzzy tools that we use. We turn a Figma file to mobile app. We delivered multiple mobile app with Buzzy platform. Lovable.dev, that is one of the platforms that we use it specifically for front-end development. We don't use that for back-end. Copilot, which extremely is helpful, save us hiring a full stack developer mid to senior level. We have developer, but this one save us one more. And Amazon Q is for infrastructure, specifically for AWS. And Replit is a lightweight cloud. It's really easy for going from idea to production. So as you can see, these AI tools are in two categories. Some of them are prompt-based, like Lovable, Copilot, Amazon Q, and Replit. And some of them are drag and drop, like N8N, Make, and Zapier. Zapier is it's been in the market for many years. They are very integration specific. You can still use that for AI, and they have integration with ChatGPT and other large language model, but they are designed for mostly API integration. Make.com is specifically for AI workflow, for workflow automation, basically. And they added also agentic aspect. But N8N is a very good platform, like Brent showing demo lately. So it's great for agentic workflow. You can build enterprise solutions. Unless you have a very complex scenario, you might have to go to coding. But most of the cases, a lot of cases at the moment, you can cover it with N8N. I'll show you now here. Actually, the demo that I built, I wanted initially to use Make and N8N and Replit, but I ended up using only Replit and N8N. So I used Replit as the front-end part. Replit has an agent similar to Lovable, and you can also go to Replit and start typing to the agent, and it builds everything for you. I'm coming from a technical background, but for last 7 years, I'm not doing coding, at least not heavy coding like that, the full day coding. So I know the whole tech stuff. So it's very easy for me to get design everything and build things with this tool. But seeing that other people like Brent build tools like that, that's also amazing. So the idea is that basically, if you are a product designer, product manager, and so on, and you have an idea within your company, you don't need to necessarily go to developers and build that. Now you can build all these tools, build it, and especially like Replit is cheaper than Lovable, is $7 per month. Lovable, I think, $20. So you prompt this. I did some prompt. I want to build that. For the prompting, let me show you a bit of a history of where I built this initially. So for the prompt, what I would suggest is that usually think about your idea. And once you have your idea, type it and send it to ChatGPT for a better prompt, and then send it to these tools. Because then that way you get a better outcome. So these tools at the moment is running. So basically, this is the idea of that helping candidates that they're looking for a job get their job analyzed against a specific job description, rather than applying for a job and getting disappointed and rejected. So they just get analysis from AI. What's their evaluation for their job and what's their success rate? So I'll just, for example, like upload a resume and go through and requested some of the analysis. And here is the backend that I built with N8N. Basically, it's running. So the outcome of the analysis, it suggested that the resume profile was more successful toward product manager role, and what's the percentage of the fit and etc. At the moment, for example, for this scenario, N8N only can parse PDF. It can do the documentation as docx as well, but it's not. It has some issue around table. So if you, in this sort of scenarios that you want to parse different type of file, images, etc., you need a bit of a coding, and you can build a small API, coding API elsewhere, and basically use that API within N8N and get this workflow work together. So what it does is that there is a webhook area and all different nodes that basically handle the file, extract the text from file, and go to the ChatGPT, basically the large language model, and basically get the outcome. And to make this more agentic, it asks in the prompt whether the confidence on the analysis is high or not based on the job description that is sent out. And then it decide. I removed basically the decision part, but there is a decision part that what's the confidence of this workflow? This outcome is high or low, and ask a question back again to the candidate. It would take me longer because I built this in 2-3 hours. So it needed a bit more work, so I skipped that bit. Sorry. For N8N, basically, is more of a workflow as well. So I wanted to build the report part on this and integrate with this one, because what Replit provide or N8N is, I found that this one can give me a better report visual. But yeah, again, I just said it in a couple of minutes, and it takes me longer than to build this. So I skip that bit. I'll show you another one as well that I built it in half a day. It's for real estate space, where we got the picture from the properties. It shows detect the defects from the images and recommend to the inspectors or property manager and so on what would be the fix. For example, if this cable issue or issue in the roof and the floor and everything, AI will recommend that as well. I don't have the UI here because we built the UI on a mobile app with Buzzy, but basically the defects are that it gets detected. For some of them, it shows it's integrated with Supabase. I'm not sure if it's how big it is, but it says that, for example, it detected some of the defects on peeling paint, on the exterior design, and so on. And that's pretty much about my talk, actually. We have also built this platform, AIPoint, which is a hiring platform. We built this primarily by with Lovable and Copilot, around 70%, and a lot of these design. We have a lot of customization on this, but a lot of this designed initially by Copilot and Lovable.com, Lovable.dev. So basically, it's agentic workflow of candidate evaluation for hiring system. That's it.
Thank you, Ima. I give her another round of applause, please. Next up on stage is someone I've had a privilege to work with in the past. We've known each other for a long time. So when I made a call out to the community of who would like to present, he kindly raised up his hand. Previously head of architecture at Service New South Wales. Recently I was head of strategy and architecture at TAFE. and now, among many other things, AI lead at Charles Sturt University. So take it away. Welcome, Trent Shields.
Cool. So I've learned that I have a high arousal and a positive valence for having the opportunity to speak today, which is awesome. I couldn't quite think of what to call this talk, so I stole Nike's. But about me, so I'm not a product manager. I'm one of the techies that bullshit Brent. I've been in the field for quite some time, but I've also been out of it. So I've run charities, operations, customer enablement. I'd say I'm a professional nerd in that I dive in and just learn things. Most of my titles are made up because people try and hire me for that talent and work out what to call me afterwards. And usually it's out of desperation because other people can't solve it with a normal title. My biggest issue is if anyone's familiar with the love languages, right? Acts of service, words of affirmation. There's actually a sixth, right? Problems of no solutions. And as you can tell, like I'm a sucker for it. Through all the interesting things I've done, people have kind of realized that if they just dangle this as a carrot in front of me, I'll dive straight in. They seduce me straight away. And I thought, AI education, that's interesting, but what's a little bit more relevant to the product manager role is one of these quirky side things I was asked to do. And so I apologize, it won't be on anything at CSU. So a while back, one of the directors of one of Australia's largest companies reached out for me in one of these desperation moments. They had a big budget black hole hidden in millions of rows of data, hundreds of columns. They couldn't find where the leak in the bucket was after having the CFO do the analytics, the data team, the facilities management team. What they were essentially operating was about 13% of all corporate Australian real estate, right? And so they reached out to me for help, and so I'm not a data dude, never have been. Don't know Python, don't know data engineering, but I had this going for me. I thought it would be a hilarious story if I actually beat the internal teams. So rather than keep you in suspense, essentially in the first week, I saved in $7 million. I finally knew what facilities management was, and then I highlighted that it was actually not where the financial team thought it was. It was a CapEx problem, not an operational problem. By week 2, I had asked for their processes and architecture, but they were too slow in giving it to me. So from the data, I was able to pull out exactly what it was and then point out gaps in the way that they were handling it. That triggered remediation activities across their work order management system, their finance system, and their integration layer as well. By week 3, I'd actually solved it and showed them where their problem was, and it was 5 or 6, which is why it was difficult for them to work it out. But then I kind of extended it with Google Maps because I thought it was cool. That again, they were too slow to give it to me, so I'd use the API. And that actually led me to find a bunch of suspicious work orders, which is cool. It turned into a bit of a crime investigation. But by this stage, the CEO is looking at it and yada yada. By week 4, I got bored, and so I built an AI that predicted the cost of a work order with about 90% accuracy. They tried to lure me in. So what I didn't say is I didn't ask for any money. I said I'll only do it if I don't get paid, and I had 2 director roles at this time, so I was just doing it in the arbos. But they tried to steal me away, and it didn't work. Clearly, I'm not working there. But the question is, how did I do that with none of the skills? Because I feel a lot of you might be in the same position I was, and see this, like if you search data science or anything, you'll see 6 months to learn it. And that's kind of true, right? But there is an alternative approach that I wanted to maybe take you through and maybe show off my stack a little bit in how I addressed it. So I will get Alex to dive in and send this out as well so you can have a play, because there's not enough time to get in there and really get dirty. Cursor, you're probably familiar with. It's an AI-based IDE. It's essentially VS Code with a couple of extra features and AI integration. Jupyter, which you might not be as familiar with, is a way to run code piece by piece. So most software you run as a batch, big executable file. Jupyter is used by a lot of scientists and researchers to just trigger individual things. And then it's almost like a Word document where you can actually do a little bit more. Pandas is Excel for code. Plotly and Folium are visualization libraries. And if you don't know the bottom, why are you here? So cool. So if you download Cursor, right, which you can, it's entirely free when you start out. This is what you're going to land into, and I'll give you a very quick tour. It's not complicated. So on the left, if you click this button, you have a little file explorer. You can see that I have a customer data CSV, which I just use Claude Code to generate. It's not real data. If you look here, so what might be a little bit different, actually, if I bring this back up, so you see how it's AIPyNB and not just a normal .py file, which is what you would have if it's Python. AIPyNB gives you this ability to add additional text, so either Markdown, or I can say, I don't know, Trent rocks, or I can add code and execute code sequentially. So you're able to choose whatever model you have access to just in here. And you can actually have multiple at once, and I'll just find whichever did it best. And then, yeah, you also have a chat function as well. So if you actually just outside of the code want to have a chat to ChatGPT, whatever, it's also there. But this is smart enough to actually do work within your environment. So let's dive in. And I'm doing this entirely live, so if it screws up, it's because I'm brave. So it's not because I don't know what I'm doing. Cool. So with Cursor, what you're able to do is press Command and K, and what that'll do is bring up a little interface internally where I can basically tell it what to do declaratively. So I can say import the data in customer data.csv. Cool. And so the beauty of this is I really don't need to know how to code, right? I can do the same and say, show me the first 10 rows, right? Super simple. And what this also allows me to do, so if you see up here, there's view data. If I click into here, it actually gives me the equivalent of Excel internally, but with some really nice figures and metrics over the top. So if we move into something a little bit more complicated, so from this data set, right, let's try and get what is the average age of a customer in Australia? So you can imagine if I'm dealing with one of the largest companies' financial data, right, and they're trusting me up at the level of the CFO or the ELT, not knowing Python is not the right approach, right? I could have run off, done a course, tried to learn it all, but that's also the wrong approach when you have access to these kind of tools. Instead, the way that I did it at the pace that I did was cool. After I've generated some code, go back in, just highlight it all, say, I don't understand code, right? And then it'll go through and tell me exactly what the hell it's doing, right? And this is what you should be doing too. It's not trying to get the thing to do the work for you. It's trying to get it to teach you so that you're able to go through and understand the logic. Now, I could have just thrown their data in ChatGPT, but that's not good either because I don't know how it got to the answer that it did and whether it's correct. With this, you're not generating the outcome, you're generating the logic to get to the outcome. So by learning the code, you can actually validate it. Right? So the cool thing about this as well is you can visualize. So let's do a simple scatter plot, show customers on a scatter plot with age and total and USD. Cool. Yeah, pretty nice, right? then you can also go in there and ask it to enhance it. So add a drop down to select country. Now it'll still keep the same code, the same intent there. And then it'll actually just, what would have taken me hours of searching before, I can now filter by this. And then you can even bring it into the third dimension if you want, make it a 3D plot. And you'd be amazed at the capabilities of some of these libraries. And if, again, you're a nerd like me, you have a lot of fun actually just exploring what this looks like. All right, cool. Now we can, I'll tell you, executives, as soon as you make something 3D or bubbly, you've got them sold, right? Cool. And so let's do something that they also love, which is visualize some maps. So here we're using a package called Folium. Folium's just good for visualizing kind of map starter. So using Folium, these are visualized. I'm always really nice to my chat GPTs. A bit more and cool. And then cool. You get that, and what it generates, you might say, "Oh, that's too busy. I can't present that." Just tell it that, right? This might really mess up, but can you cluster them? Because I haven't done this one before, so it's more visible. Yeah, cool. And again, it moves, which means your boss will love it, right? Easy sell. So cool. Let's say we wanted something a little bit more practical, at least in my mind. So using Folium, show me a heat map of the total spend column. So hopefully, yeah. So these kind of things actually become a lot more practical when you're trying to analyze trends and customer data. You can start overlaying multiple layers of this and add interactivity where you can choose between. If you're doing the data science side, it's very different from reporting in that you're not trying to generate the answers that you already know, right? You already know the question. Here you're trying to work out what's the right question by, to be honest, just throwing everything at the wall and then following the trails that it leads you down. And then, naturally, because it's in a programming, kind of environment. So I did the same process here, right? Just asked it, can you turn this into AI? It takes about 5 seconds to generate, right? It actually works. So if I click there, you can see, is it the best AI? No. But to be honest, all you have to do is say, improve it, go up and improve it. And then, off the back of it, also just ask it to generate a random customer picker where it tells me, what's the actual spend versus the predicted spend, right? So if I jump back, right, I'll tell you, I've had every reason why you can't get in and do this yourself, right? That you probably, if that executive from the big company came to you, would choose one of these. If you focus a little bit more on why you can, right, you're at this point where you're not limited by your lack of understanding of the tech, right? But also it's easier to learn the tech than ever before. To be the best product manager in the world, you just have to be 10% better than the second best product manager, right? This could be it. Like me, you like proving people wrong, especially around data, and when they're, I guess, taking attitudes in which I think are unhelpful. This one I'm passionate about. The number of books I've recommended to people, and they've said it's too expensive, and I see them at Macca's, it drives me crazy. This is free if you choose, and if you spend $10, you can bring your own models and do a lot more. There's really, literally no reason you shouldn't be trying it out. And every product manager I know has a side hustle, every single one. If you don't, it's in your head and you've been thinking of it for 10 years. Learn this by doing the market research for that. Just get in, give it a go, and realize it's not that difficult. what it'll do is give you a better appreciation of what your tech guys are trying to do. It'll also give you a better appreciation of, to be honest, some of the lies that your data team are telling you in how you pull data together. But it'll really strengthen your ability to ask the right questions and give you an intuition around what that looks like for your product. So how to succeed, for me, it's do something, no commitment. When you start out, I said, don't give me money until they begged. Find a problem that interests you and then treat it like a Netflix true crime movie.
Thanks. All right. Now we've got one more demo for you, and then we'll let you get back to your. Oh, I see you, Leo. How are you, mate? Thanks for coming. Awesome. Anna, where are you? Come over here. Let's start setting up. So our next presenter, Anna, is a mathematician. And she's also a flower AI artist. Can't wait to see her presentations. It's been seen by thousands of people around the world. There's 130,000 followers on Instagram looking at her art. She's super passionate about taking Australian flora and fauna and using AI to bring that to life. Please welcome Anna.
Hello, everyone. First, I have a question because my part will be about something completely different usage of AI and mostly connected to Nicole's presentation, I hope. So it will be about emotional usage and how I practiced it. My question to you, can you please all open your phone and tell me who has more than 1,000 photos in it? Great. Okay. Who has more than 10,000 photos? Mm-hmm. And who has more than 100,000 photos? Good. Good. So, my experiment that I'll show you today will demonstrate you how you can use your photos otherwise than nice memory about what you had. So I recently relocated to Australia, and as some of you probably experienced, that's a pretty painful and stressful process to happen to be in another country. And I found, not on purpose, but it just happened like that, that with the help of AI, that makes me happy. So that process is my happy place. And using Nicole's circle, that helps me to move from the left negative emotions to the right ones. And there, I really get my stress out and everything. So I was not thinking about AI as an end result. So I didn't involve it to help me to do something, not to sort any problem. So, of course, I didn't go there with my, psychological or emotional problems, but that was my observation. And I think not so many scientists are doing research how really that process is, what is it doing with our mind? So what are the benefits of it as the communication? So what we really do, not only getting the democratized data or getting the answers quickly, but what really do we get while we're communicating with the AI? So I wanted to show you some demo.
Just that.
Okay. That's this. Okay. So, I have 10 minutes, and this is how you can follow my demo together with me. So the first core code is the tutorial that I will be sharing now online, and you can follow that. Maybe you can use it later for your photos because you all have a lot of them. And the other one is the result of where I ended up with, because I didn't find better solution for their creations that I developed, then uploaded them on Instagram. What a smart decision. And I didn't think about that as any business. So I didn't have any plan to do anything with that flowers. I just like the flowers and I like to experiment with the eye with the flowers. And I just upload there. And right now, as Alex mentioned, I have more than 130,000 subscribers, and I have a lot of orders from big companies, big brands who order flowers. So right now it's a business, but it didn't plan to be like that. So maybe you enjoy my process and you can also do something similar. How it looks like. Just a second. That's exactly the, if you follow the tutorial that I had on the first core code, you see the steps that you can follow later, for example. And this is ChatGPT. Most of you are familiar with that. And what I used is I found that nice GPT that you have with the strange. You see my cursor, right? With the strange description here, and it uses JSON. Who is familiar with that language? Yeah, of course. And this is a very simple one. So with that particular, you can write whatever you want, and it converts your data into JSON format. And what I found out that particular GPT is very good in using it, describing whatever creation of image or video you would like to get. And Sora, which is also part of OpenAI, is extremely great with JSON, much better than just with human language. Maybe it will be sorted out later, but that's my observation. I'm only good with flowers. I'm bad with people generation or whatever, some other motions. But about flowers, I pretend I know a lot because I've been doing that for 3 years. If you open my Instagram, that's a lot of them, more than 5,000, I think, images. So to have it quickly, what we can do. So I have also a lot of images in my phone, and these are examples. I had taken just 2 of them. These are the birds, kookaburra, nice birds. I had taken pictures in Sydney Botanic Garden, and these are camellia red flowers. You see nothing fancy, so these are just basic photos I had taken with my iPhone. And this is the prompt that I created, and you can copy that or you can experiment with that later. And we can try to use it straightforward. We copy it from that GPT and they go to Sora. And sorry, now we start a new one. We need an image and we take it. But we'll select that we would like 4 images, and we would like 2 of my photos being uploaded. Using the JSON, and we press that. It takes some time, and if you try to generate some images in any programs, Sora is the most unpredictable one. Maybe that's why I like it the most, because that's a very creative process. Yesterday, when I was preparing for that presentation, my kookaburra turned into a single bear. No flowers, just a bear. And that happens. And I think that process, when you wrote something and expect the end result, that's probably the most exciting, and that's why it makes me very happy, because I absolutely relocating to another imaginary world. And maybe if you are also a reflective person as Alex and myself, maybe that process can help you as well. So experiment with that. Now, and we still have it process down. Meanwhile, I'll tell you what will happen next. So we wait for that image to appear. So what it actually does. I've seen kookaburras sitting on camellia flowers, but I was bad and didn't take the phone, and they just separated. So I could take a picture only of kookaburras and camellias, but I didn't manage to get them together. So what I did, I artificially merged them with the help of Sora. And my tip is it works best with their creatures that are actually emerging in the real life. So if you would like to put, I don't know, kookaburras on tulip, it won't look that natural, because I tried to discuss it with ChatGPT, and what I found out, because in their database, they don't have kookaburras on tulips. That's obvious. And that's why the most natural ones are the ones that you get from that database yourself. And that's, I think, the whole magic of working with different AI platforms. So you can ask, for example, GPT, what types of birds are mostly merging with what type of flowers, and it will rank them, and there you have that solution. So I found that, yes, kookaburras on camellia flowers are pretty regular. So yeah, I was happy to get a pretty stable solution here. So let's see what we have. So you see the images here. I think all of them are pretty okay, right? And as far as I was using the real flowers and real kookaburras, that's and you've seen there was nothing so artificial in the whole prompt. That all looks pretty natural. So now what we can do, we can take that picture, the one we like, and ask the same GPT as we were using previously. Ask it to create a video, and in that video you can really be as creative as you want. For example, I was probably in a bad mood, and I asked, please show me kookaburras fighting. But you may ask them dating, kissing, or having a political debate, whatever you want to. I'll show you what I ended up at the end, but that's a nice experiment that you can go. It's of course it's very good that Sora or ChatGPT are protected in terms of copyright, so you cannot copy anyone else's creations, but you can mix, for example. What I mean, you can ask, please show me kookaburras behaving like the characters in the movie. For example, I tried it in a movie Notebook, which probably you've seen it, but the main characters are pretty emotional through the whole movie. So my kookaburras got emotional as well. So you can mix different types of creation. So using movie and music and etc. Because I add music at the end, and I'll show you as well. And writing music is a poem as it is, I think, because I'm using Suna. And when you try to express your emotion there, that's another piece of intuition. So let's see what we have here. So not to keep your time, I'll show you using the same experiment. So I just asked them, these are fighting kookaburras. Fighting kookaburras described with Gibson based on my photos I had taken on my phone in Sydney Botanic Garden. And you can imagine that you can create a whole movie. So it can be a story, whatever you want. You want it to end up with a drama, you're welcome to do that. Your kookaburra may be left alone, or you can make them living happy even after. And that JSON prompt actually is working with a lot of other video generation programs. So, for example, I can show you this one. Exactly the same prompt, but different platform. For example, this is Mood Valley. Me personally, I like Sora the most. As I mentioned, I'm only good with flora and fauna, not with anything else. For flora and fauna, Sora, I think, is the best because you see here we have a bit of artificial beaver and something like that. But if you would like to get a famous kookaburra laugh, which I think we should, we can see on these ones. So you've heard it, right? So this is exactly the same prompt, exactly the same JSON prompt I was using, but this is Vel 3, the Google one with the sound. So of course here it's not my influence. I didn't get the sound of Kookaburra, but it has it pretty good in its database. So it's recreated it pretty nicely. And if you visited my Instagram account, you see that I have a bit longer videos. So what I do, I generate them and then combine depending on my mood, either in a positive or negative, whatever it is. So this is the example of the end work where I used music or AI-generated music for that particular video, and it is done through Sona, where the method is pretty similar and the approach, but you have a music supporting your video. I hope it's not that loud. Thank you so much for your attention. We ended it.
Unfortunately, can you hear me? We're almost at 8 o'clock, so I do want to let everyone go because I'm sure you've got places to be. I do see this 26 questions, which we're not gonna get through in the next 5 minutes, but maybe raise your hand if you want to stay for extra 5 minutes and answer a few questions, or you just want to go. Okay, I think few people want to stay. Yeah, if you got places to be, please by all means